Doug, just for starters, any just general thoughts on why it didn't click for you guys up there in Edmonton?
Uh, Not, we're still sort of digging through that. I thought coming into I guess it would have been phase three. Uh, there was a lot going on around our organization. We had of our regular players, I think we had like 20% of those guys that had COVID at some point. Uh, their mindset was always to be competitive and to play hard, but they had a lot going on around them. I think 4 or 5 guys were just had babies or going to have babies. The information of the COVID was changing every day on how it was going to affect older people, younger people, babies, and it took us a while to. I thought we got the most comfortable when we finally got to Edmonton. I didn't think we were comfortable leading into Edmonton, and I think that showed early on in our first couple of weeks there.
Do you think the COVID affected any of the I don't know, fitness level, conditioning of some of your guys?
Yeah, it did, just because when they were when they were quarantining, they couldn't go to the gym, they couldn't do certain things. It affected each of the players differently. Some lost a considerable amount of weight. Some, they all felt some form of a symptom. It wasn't that they had it and they didn't feel anything.
Army, do you have any update on Vladimir Tarasenko, and how limited was he throughout his play up there in Edmonton?
Well, he was very obviously limited. He had shoulder surgery, obviously, at the start of the season. He rehabbed, he came back. We had to do another MRI. He wasn't feeling good. That surgery didn't take the way that we had hoped. It wasn't successful. He's going to go back in and have more surgery next week. And it's serious in the sense that he won't be with us and he won't be reevaluated for 5 months after the date of surgery.
Army, you had said when the plan was laid out that it didn't really matter where the Blues were seated with the round robin. Looking back, do you think the players might have believed that too much too, and maybe weren't ready?
I don't think I don't think that we didn't try and prepare. Going into those round robin games, I think we very rarely trailed, and we weren't playing good hockey. There's no question. Binnington played very well to keep us in games, but I think we were ahead or tied in the third period of every game and lost them all. I think we went all 70 games without that happening to us in the regular season. So I think we, as I said, when we got there, our competitive level was increasing, because that's when we felt most comfortable.
Doug, getting back to the Tarasenko news, how does that affect your planning going forward? And is there a concern level that this will be, I don't know, chronic?
Well, it's certainly not a positive that we're going through right now. It's his third surgery. We just know that he prepares and trains hard and needs to get back and play well for us. But yeah, it's a concern in the sense that he's had 3 surgeries, or is going to have 3 surgeries.
Surgery is surgery, Army, but in terms of this one versus the previous 2, are they as extensive? Is it as how would you describe what he's about to go under versus the reconstruction he had in the 2 previous surgeries?
Andy, quite honestly, I'm not going to get into it. That's if Vladdy wants to get into the details of it, it's his body, it's his shoulder. It's serious enough where he's not going to be reevaluated for 5 months.
Thanks.
Doug, the team performed very well without Vladdy and was your highest scoring team in like 26 years, but because of this news, and 5 months is going to knock out a lot of the season. Does that change? Do you have to maybe think about looking for more scoring, or?
Well, as you said, scoring wasn't an issue for us last season. Having Vladdy in our lineup makes us a better team. So no, I don't think we're going to go out and try and replace Vladdy with another Vladdy. We all know what the salary cap situation is. Jordan Kyrou has to come back, and be given an opportunity to have an impact on our team, and he has to take that opportunity and run with it. So I think there's internal players that are going to come back. Again, when you look at our roster and you look what we have moving forward, a lot of guys from last year's team, they're signed. We only have two restricted players in Dunn and De La Rosa, and one unrestricted and Alex Petrangelo. So the core group that had a good 70 games are for the majority are under contract.
Doug, it's Jeremy. How worried about Tarasenko are you in terms of his future and if he can ever be the same player again?
Well, I got it. As I said, it's the third surgery. We're hoping that he gets back to the level that he was at before. I'm not concerned about the work ethic and the approach he's going to take to putting himself in a great spot. But time is going to tell on how quickly and the impact he can have when he gets back. I think he can have the same impact as before, but it's really irrelevant what I think or what I feel. It's going to be how he does when he gets back.
Army, obviously this changes your top six forwards. You mentioned Kyrou. From among the other kids, though, Blais, Sanford, what kind of comfort level do you have with those guys moving into top six roles?
Well, I think that you saw Zach Sanford get became very comfortable playing with Perron and O'Reilly. I can see that moving forward. I think Craig, we saw a good line with Schwartz there. Robert Thomas needs to take another step, hopefully to find a way into our group of six, whether it's in the middle or on the wing. Schenner can move over. So there's quite a few options there. But as far as Blais and Sanford, we need them to continue to improve and take a bigger chunk out of our overall team and overall game.
Doug, you mentioned some, I guess you'd call them ameliorating factors, such as the COVID-19, but, David Perron, Craig Berube have talked about the energy level, the buy-in being fully invested. Did you see that in the team up in Edmonton?
Yeah, I saw it growing as we were up there. Going into it, Jimmy, I thought that we had players that, for whatever reason, didn't report in the conditioning level that was going to give them the best success. And it's not an indictment on those guys. It's hard. There's no gyms open. There's 8 teams that did a better job dealing with it. They're still playing. And then soon there's going to be 4, 2, and 1. So we didn't do enough to give ourselves the best opportunity to have success.
And now I guess there's a little bit of uncertainty as to exactly when you're going to start. How do you handle that in terms of telling your players how to prepare, how to train for the upcoming season?
Well, the veterans, I tried to go back on some experiences of a work stoppage in the sense that I think they're going to go home and I think they're going to hear that we're not going to play, that, potentially no one knows what COVID's going to do. And then the phone's going to ring and say, okay, you have 2 days to be here. We're going to have training camp and then we're going to get up and running and playing. And so they have to prepare that we're going to play. I think that the league has put an early December start date out there. They have to prepare to get ready for that, and they have to block out all the white noise that's going to come along between now and then. We were in Canada. There was very few cases in Canada. It felt very safe there. You come back into the States and, I look at it, it really depends on what, you watch CNN. They have one view on how this is going to go, and you watch Fox, they have another view how it's going to go. We have to prepare like we're watching Fox TV.
Army, do you react differently to this offseason versus previous years when you may have been knocked out earlier or early in the playoffs, just simply based on the circumstances surrounding this playoffs? I mean, is it important not to overreact, or how do you view it?
Well, I would say that you have to take the 70 games and look at what went well and what didn't go well, where we could improve. And then you have to take the tournament in itself and figure out what went well, where you can improve, and why are we not playing right now. And so you don't want to overreact to it, Andy. And also, if it had been a normal where we got to game 82, go into the playoffs, and and you're not competitive, I think that might have been a different look than what happened in Vancouver. And I got to say, in reality, like game one, it's a tie game. Game two could have gone either way. We win 3-4, 5 we're up 3-1. I didn't feel like we got outplayed. If you break an NHL game down into 4 components, 5-on-5 play, power play, penalty kill, goaltending, I thought we were strong 5-on-5, and I thought the opposition had the upper hand in the other areas.
Doug, how do you view Binnington's play? And I know it's just a few games, but does it change how you look at your goalie picture at all? We know both Allen and Binnington have 1 year left on their deals.
Yeah, obviously Jordan didn't play to the level he played at a year ago. He set a high bar for himself expectation-wise, and we as a group didn't get there. He didn't do it by himself a year ago in the playoffs, and he's certainly not by himself on why we're not playing right now. But we believe in Binner. He's a proud, competitive player, and I think he's going to come back ready to go and play like he did during the regular season, the first 70 games of the regular season.
Hey, Doug, obviously – go ahead, Jim. Sorry.
Army, you've described the salary cap situation as kind of a chessboard, and to keep one chess piece, you have to knock a couple of pieces off. Specific to Petro here, what sense are you getting from other managers about their ability to take some of your chess pieces that you would need to remove to keep that one?
Well, I think the first phase is going to be to find out if we can find common ground with Alex. And if we do, then go to work to move other pieces. It is really an either or, that if we can't find common ground with Alex, then there's really no need to do anything. And if we can find common ground with Alex, then there's a need to do a lot. So there's until we get phase one done, there's obviously I've talked to different managers to find out what their goals are, what they're trying to accomplish. Do we have pieces that allow them to accomplish what they want? But that being said, I've said this really since like July of 19. Alex is our captain. I've grown up with Alex in this organization, and he's grown up with me in this organization. I'd like to see it continue for a number of years moving forward, and that's my focus right now.
Doug, can you describe how the salary cap affects things? You thought it would be at one level or one number, and now it's staying the same?
Yeah, it affects us, but it's affecting everybody around the league in the same fashion. And I think one of the things too that may be different, and again, we're fortunate. Our ownership is committed to competing with the top teams and spending to the salary cap. I'm not sure all other organizations have that same philosophy moving forward. There was a lot of revenue that wasn't earned this year. How is the revenue going to be earned next year? And are you a cash or cap team? And I think that most teams were cap teams. I would imagine there'll be some teams that are more cash teams now, and that's going to affect on how they do it. I don't expect anyone to say, oh, well, St. Louis, they really want to sign Petro, so let's help them out. That's not reality. So it's gonna take some moving parts, and my goal is to hope to get to that, because we've got our captain under contract.
Do you think these negotiations might be the most particularly tricky of your career because of who Petro is?
I don't think so. Actually, I think they're going to be easier because for the first time in a number of years, I think we know what the cap's going to be moving forward for potentially 4, 5, 6 years. So from a business standpoint, there's no projection that it's going to go from 81.5 to 87 to 94 to 101. You know it's going to probably stay in its within a few percentage points of where it's at now for a number of years. So I think there's actually more information than less this year.
That's interesting. Thank you.
Hey, Doug, following up on that a little bit, your job is a juggling act, and when you've got a deal in front of you that makes sense, you have to do it and kind of know that something could happen with Pietrangelo down the line. That said, you signed 4 players to about $18 million for next year's cap. Do you buy into that makes it harder to sign Petro with the less cap room, or do you just look at it as you have a number in mind for Petro, and if it works, it works?
Are you talking about guys we signed after the
Falk and Shen and Scandella?
Well, yeah, no, we trust me, we wanted to try and sign Alex back to last July, but you can't not do anything and hoping to do one thing.
Doug, is it
level of
is there-
urgency? Oh, sorry, Jim.
No, go ahead, Luke.
No, Doug. I'm just curious. What's the level of urgency as far as when do you want to start initiating talks with Alex and his representatives?
Well, I think I'm going to go back to where we had this at training camp. Those things are done behind closed doors, and we're going to, from my perspective, I'm going to keep them there.
Doug, I just wanted to ask you about, Vince Dunn, RFA, just where things stand there. And in a sense, is that on hold while you see how this Petro thing shakes out?
Well, not really. The CBA is the CBA. Players have arbitration rights. Players don't have arbitration rights. Players are restricted free agents. Players are unrestricted free agents. The cap is the cap. And everyone has to react accordingly on management and on the player side to the new world.
Doug, does anyone else need off-season surgeries?
Not a couple of guys are getting some more information. Not anything that I'm prepared to, or able to report today. But for the most part, the majority of the guys are seem ready to get to their fall programs and then get back up here and ready to go. No one that might need a cleanup or whatever is in danger of not being ready when we start.
And with the AHL situation, are you thinking any young guys going over to Europe who might not make the big squad?
We've talked about a couple of players, but we haven't found the right fit. So I would imagine all of our young players are going to stay in North America and train and prepare. Again, it's such an interesting time. Whether there's any validity to what I read that the NHL and NHLPA are talking about four hub cities, a bubble working. I don't think the American Hockey League will play without fans. So if they're not playing without fans, do you go back to a roster of 31 like we had here? How's the NHL and HPL going to deal with that? There's so many outstanding issues that need to be resolved as we move forward. It's hard to really formulate a plan. If something comes up, our young players, if they do go, I would like to have access to get them back if and when we start up.
Hey, Doug. A lot of the guys that we've talked to, and even Craig mentioned it this morning, that he's expecting a motivated group to come back next year, and that this really didn't sit well. Getting knocked out in the first round by the veterans. Do you get that same sense that this is going to be a motivated group coming back next year?
Yeah, I've been able to talk to the majority of the players. I only have one or two left. I think that in the summer of 19, when we brought in O'Reilly and we brought in Perron and we did other things, we had talked about a window opening for 5 years. We're entering year 3 of that. So if they don't believe we can win, I'd be shocked. So I expect they're going to be motivated. I expect they're going to want to come back and put their best foot forward and be competitive to win a championship.
Army, a lot of times as fans, we don't appreciate what we have until it's gone. I believe that was the case with Bo, being a shutdown guy and such a great penalty killer. Do you have anybody in the organization that you think could step up, not be a Bo-meister, but be kind of that shutdown guy and that key left side penalty? Well,
Scandella, we've obviously signed. We think he can be in that grouping of defensemen. I would say Mikkola is the one player that we think can kill penalties, can bring a little bit of an edge to our team. That would be the one guy that has some of Bo's traits, but Bo played a long time. Won a gold medal, won a Stanley Cup, won the World Championships. He did a lot of winning, and to think that we have someone there ready just to step in where he left off would be disingenuous for me to say we had that guy.
Speaking of Bo, Doug, have you talked to him much lately? And I just presume you're leaving it up to him to make any kind of announcement that he might make.
Yeah, I haven't talked to him. We texted a little bit prior to going into the bubble, more just he was wishing us well, and I was checking in to see how he and his family were doing. But yeah, no, I haven't talked to him since. And whatever his decisions that he wants to make, I'm sure he'll let me know at the proper time.
Army, how would you evaluate Justin Falk's first full season here in St. Louis? And do you feel like you saw flashes, not just during the regular season, but also in the bubble, of maybe what he's capable of doing?
Yeah, I would say that, it wasn't what we had hoped for, but more importantly, it wasn't what he had hoped for. But that being said, with that being said, when you come into an organization and you're not given a specific job responsibility, it's hard to find your way. And I don't think that we were able to find something that he could sink his teeth into and say, okay, this is mine, and I'm going to max out in that area. I thought he played better hockey, in the bubble at certain times, but I think there's another level that he expects to take his game to, and we expect him to take his game to.
Let's do a couple more for Army, guys.
Army, assuming that Tarasenko could start the season on LT, does that open up a little bit of cap space for you to have some more time to make moves possibly and potentially bring back Alex?
Well, again, it's do you go into long-term injury before the season? If you want to wait till the regular season, you have to be $7.5 million under the cap to put him on day one of the season. So there's going to be certainly some interesting math equations going on to get to that point. There's no
considering the COVID cases you had coming into camp, are you surprised that the NHL has worked out as well as it has with no positive tests, that everything has gone so well afterwards?
Well, I give the credit to obviously the league for how they constructed the bubble, but I give a ton of credit to the players. When they got into the final phase before the testing, I think the players did exactly what they were asked to do. They came, they practiced, they went home, and they stayed home. And so when we got there, everybody was healthy. I think I said it to somebody, like when I got there, I could tell I'm not shocked there's no positive tests now. That is a lockdown bubble. You got daily tests. There's not a lot of COVID in Edmonton, but no one's getting it in there. So I give a ton of credit to the players for preparing to get to these bubbles. And then I give the league a ton of credit and the PA to create an environment that they were willing to accept the lack of freedom for the betterment of the game.
Hey, Army, one more thing from me in regards to the expansion draft next year. As you work through this brief off season, how much of what you do is with an eye towards the expansion draft next off season in terms of building the organization for this coming season?
Quite honestly, not a lot is going to go into how we perform. Seattle's going to get a good player from us. We know that if we're not going to take a step back next season. So we protect it. So Seattle doesn't get a very good player. That we're going to focus in on next year and we'll worry about the expansion draft when it comes.